Welcome to the video. Before we begin, I suggest you subscribe to the channel, and we begin. John grew up in a small town in the Midwest. He was the youngest of 5 siblings and the only boy. His parents were hardworking, but money was always tight. They had to save every penny they had just to put food on the table. John's childhood was tough. He never had the latest gadgets or toys like the other kids. He wore hand-me-downs and got his books and school supplies from the local thrift store. But he never complained. He knew his parents were doing the best they could. John was an excellent student. He excelled in math and science, and his teachers predicted he would go far in life. He was determined to make something of himself and make his parents proud. After finishing high school, John went to college on a scholarship. He studied medicine and became a doctor. He met his wife, Sarah, in medical school, and they got married shortly after graduation. They had a happy life together, and John was excited to become a father. When Sarah went into labor, John was in the delivery room. He watched in awe as his son was born. But as he looked at the tiny baby in his arms, he felt a sense of panic. He wasn't ready for the responsibility of being a father. As John held his son, he knew he couldn't handle the pressure. He quietly left the room and went to the hospital lobby. He looked at his son through the glass window and then walked out of the hospital. John didn't know what to do. He drove around for hours, thinking about his decision. He couldn't face his wife or his family. He felt like a failure. Days turned into weeks, and John couldn't shake the guilt he felt for leaving his son. He knew he had to come back and make things right, but he was too ashamed to face his wife. Years passed, and John went on with his life. He became a successful doctor and traveled the world, but he never forgot about his son. One day, John was on a business trip to Japan. He was walking around the city when he saw a hospital. Something inside him told him to go inside. As he walked through the halls, he saw a doctor who looked just like him. He was shocked. The doctor noticed John staring and walked over to him. "Excuse me, sir, is everything okay?" the doctor asked. John couldn't speak. He was frozen in shock. The doctor looked exactly like him. It was uncanny. The doctor noticed John's reaction and asked him to sit down. He explained that he was a twin separated at birth and adopted by a Japanese family. John listened intently as the doctor told him his life story. He couldn't believe what he was hearing. As the conversation came to a close, the doctor smiled and said, "Thank you for coming to see me, John. You've given me hope that I can find my birth family someday." John realized in that moment that he had been given a second chance. He had a son who was out there somewhere, and he needed to find him. With renewed purpose, John returned home and reconnected with his wife. Together, they searched for their son and found him living with a loving family who had adopted him. John was finally able to meet his son, and they formed a strong bond. He had missed out on so much, but he was grateful for the chance to make things right. The unexpected ending to John's story was that he not only found his son but also discovered a long-lost twin who was making a difference in the world. It was a happy ending for everyone involved. John was overjoyed to finally meet his son, David. He had missed out on so much, but he was determined to make up for lost time. He was amazed at how much David looked like him and felt a sense of pride seeing his son grow up to be a smart and compassionate young man. David was hesitant at first to accept John back into his life. He had grown up with his adoptive family and didn't know anything about his biological parents. But after spending some time with John, he realized that he had been missing a part of himself all along. John and Sarah slowly became a part of David's life, and they enjoyed getting to know him and his family. John felt like he had been given a second chance at being a father, and he didn't take it for granted. John's experience with meeting his long-lost twin also had a profound impact on him. He realized that family was more than just blood, and that he had a connection with his twin brother that he never knew was possible. John kept in touch with his twin brother, and they shared stories about their lives and experiences. John felt like he had found a missing piece of himself, and it was a feeling that he could never have imagined. As John reflected on his life, he realized that he had made a mistake by leaving his son in the hospital. But he also knew that it was never too late to make things right. He had found a way to reconnect with his son and had discovered a new family member in the process. John's story was a reminder that life is full of unexpected surprises, and that sometimes the things we think are lost forever can be found again. It was a story of redemption, forgiveness, and the power of family ties. John was grateful for the second chance he had been given, and he made sure to make the most of it. He spent as much time with David as he could and watched with pride as his son pursued his dreams and made a difference in the world. John's relationship with his wife also grew stronger as they worked together to rebuild their family. They learned to communicate better and to be there for each other when times were tough. John also stayed in touch with his twin brother, and they made plans to meet up again in the future. John knew that he had gained a new family member and that their connection was special. As the years passed, John's life was filled with new experiences and adventures. He continued to work as a doctor, but he also made time for his family and the things that he loved. The unexpected ending to John's story had turned out to be a blessing in disguise. He had learned that it was never too late to make things right, and that family was more than just blood. He had found a way to reconnect with his son and had discovered a new family member in the process. John's story was a testament to the power of forgiveness, redemption, and the strength of family ties. It was a reminder that even in the darkest of times, there is always hope for a better tomorrow. As John continued to live his life with his family, he never forgot the lesson he had learned about second chances. He became an advocate for adoption and encouraged others to consider adopting children who needed a loving home. Years passed, and David became a successful doctor like his father. John felt proud to see his son following in his footsteps and making a difference in the world. They had a strong bond, and John knew that their relationship was built on trust, love, and mutual respect. One day, as John was walking through the hospital where he worked, he saw a doctor who looked exactly like him. He froze in shock as he realized that this doctor was his long-lost twin brother, the same one who had saved his life all those years ago. John approached his brother, and they embraced each other tightly, tears streaming down their faces. They talked for hours, catching up on all the years they had missed. John felt a sense of completeness, knowing that he had found his twin brother and that they were finally reunited. John's brother Tom was also a doctor, and they started working together at the hospital. John felt a sense of connection with his brother that he had never felt before. They shared the same interests, the same sense of humor, and the same passion for helping others. As John looked back on his life, he realized that everything that had happened had led him to this moment. He had made mistakes, but he had also learned from them and had become a better person as a result. He had lost a son, but he had also gained a family member in his twin brother. John's story was a reminder that even in the face of adversity, there is always hope. It was a story of second chances, forgiveness, and the power of family ties. And John knew that he would never take his family for granted again. John and Tom became inseparable, working side by side at the hospital and spending their free time together. They shared a deep bond that only twins could understand, and they marveled at the similarities in their lives. As John's career continued to flourish, he never forgot the lessons he had learned about family and second chances. He continued to advocate for adoption and became involved in various charities that helped children in need. Years passed and John's family grew as David got married and had children of his own. John felt blessed to have a family that loved him and accepted him for who he was. He knew that he had made mistakes in the past, but he had also been given a second chance, and he had learned to cherish every moment. As John looked back on his life, he realized that the unexpected ending to his story had been the best thing that had ever happened to him. He had found his twin brother, reconnected with his son, and had built a strong and loving family. John's story was a testament to the power of love, forgiveness, and the strength of family ties. He knew that life was full of surprises, both good and bad, but he was grateful for every moment he had been given. And as he looked at his grandchildren playing in the park, he knew that the unexpected twists and turns of life had led him to this moment, surrounded by the people he loved most in the world. John smiled as he watched his grandchildren playing in the park, feeling grateful for the love and happiness that surrounded him. He had learned the importance of family, forgiveness, and second chances, and he was determined to pass those lessons down to his children and grandchildren. As the years passed, John continued to work as a doctor and was highly respected in his field. He and his twin brother Tom continued to work together at the hospital, and they often joked that they were two halves of the same person. John's son David also followed in his footsteps and became a successful doctor, working alongside his father and uncle. John felt proud to see his son making a difference in the world and carrying on the family legacy. And as John looked back on his life, he realized that the unexpected ending to his story had been a blessing in disguise. He had found his twin brother, reconnected with his son, and had built a strong and loving family. John knew that life would always be full of surprises and unexpected twists and turns, but he was grateful for every moment he had been given. He had learned that family was not just about blood, but about the love and connections that bound people together. As he sat in the park, surrounded by his family, John felt content and at peace, knowing that he had lived a full and meaningful life. He knew that he had made mistakes along the way, but he had also been given a second chance, and he had learned to cherish every moment. John's story was a reminder that no matter what life throws at you, It is never too late to make things right. It was a story of second chances, forgiveness, and the power of family ties. And John knew that he would never take his family for granted again. In his later years, John continued to advocate for adoption and work to improve the lives of children in need. He often spoke at conferences and events, sharing his story and encouraging others to consider adopting or fostering children. John knew that he had been given a second chance in life, and he was determined to use that chance to make a positive difference in the world. He felt grateful for the love and support of his family, and he knew that he could never repay them for all they had given him. As John's health began to decline, he knew that his time on earth was coming to an end. But he was at peace, knowing that he had lived a full and meaningful life and had made a difference in the world. On the day of his passing, John's family gathered around him, holding his hands and telling him how much they loved him. And as he took his last breath, John knew that he was leaving behind a legacy of love, forgiveness, and second chances. In the years that followed, John's family continued to honor his memory by carrying on his legacy of love and kindness. They adopted children, volunteered at charities, and worked to improve the lives of those around them. And though John was no longer with them in body, his spirit lived on through the love and kindness of his family and the countless lives he had touched during his time on earth. John's unexpected ending had been a reminder that life is full of surprises, both good and bad, but that love and family ties can help us weather any storm. It was a reminder to cherish every moment and to always hold on to hope, even in the darkest of times. And John knew that his legacy would continue to inspire others for generations to come. In honor of John's memory, the hospital where he had worked for many years created a foundation to support children in need. The foundation was named after John and his twin brother Tom, who had both dedicated their lives to helping others. The John and Tom Foundation quickly became a beacon of hope for children in need, providing them with the resources they needed to thrive. It was a fitting tribute to two brothers who had dedicated their lives to making a difference in the world. John's family also continued to honor his memory by staying connected and supporting each other through thick and thin. They knew that life was unpredictable, but they had learned the importance of family ties and were determined to keep their bonds strong. And though they still missed John every day, they knew that he was looking down on them, proud of all they had accomplished and grateful for the love and kindness they had shown to others. In the end, John's unexpected ending had been a reminder that life is full of surprises, both good and bad, but that it is always possible to find hope and love in the midst of it all. It was a reminder to never take our loved ones for granted and to always cherish the moments we have with them. John had lived a full and meaningful life, leaving behind a legacy of love, kindness, and second chances. And though he was no longer with them, his spirit would continue to inspire others for generations to come. In the years that followed, John's family and the John and Tom Foundation continued to make a positive impact on the world. The foundation expanded its reach, providing support and resources to children in need all over the world. John's son David continued to work as a doctor, carrying on the family legacy of service and compassion. He often thought about his father and the lessons he had taught him, and he knew that his work was a testament to John's memory. And as John's grandchildren grew up, they too learned the importance of family ties and service to others. They volunteered at local charities and worked to make a positive impact on their communities, carrying on the legacy of their beloved grandfather. In the end, John's unexpected ending had been a blessing in disguise. It had led him to his twin brother, reconnected him with his son, and taught him the importance of forgiveness and second chances. It had also led him to a life of service and compassion, leaving a lasting impact on the world. John's story was a testament to the power of love, forgiveness, and family ties. It was a reminder that no matter what life throws at us, we can always find hope and light in the darkness. And though John was no longer with them, his memory lived on through the countless lives he had touched during his time on earth. He had left behind a legacy of love and service, inspiring others to make a positive impact on the world and to cherish the moments they have with their loved ones.